Hello, this is Dr. Dave Maslach talking about reciprocity.com. The E is spelled with a 3 in reciprocity. So in this particular video, I'm going to answer the question, what areas of research in a PhD will make me most competitive in the job market? This was a question that was asked of myself on Quora. I thought that was a really good question. Thank you for asking that particular question. So once again, I'm a professor of innovation, strategy, and entrepreneurship, and we think about these kind of concepts in two ways. First of all, I am doing the whole research route, so I'm really familiar with the research route. And by the way, this is part of my thesis help series, all about trying to help out PhD students, graduate students, sort of navigate all the uncertainties and difficulties of going through a PhD and getting into graduate school and stuff like that. It's a really tricky thing, right? First of all, I think you're going around the question the wrong way. It really is not about sort of positioning yourself to make yourself competitive in any sort of way. First of all, I mean, what does competitive mean, right? If you're doing something that is sufficiently novel, you probably shouldn't be competitive in any sort of way. Like a novel activity, doing a PhD is doing something that is unique and different. Nobody else is in that particular space. So, you're kind of doing what is called the product differentiation strategy, and being competitive means that you're kind of going one way, nobody else is going that particular way, right? Nobody's pursuing that particular activity. So it's really clear you should be thinking about that. And then the other thing to think about, what does it mean to be competitive in terms of the metrics you're looking at? Is it sort of financial prosperity? Is it getting an academic job? Is it going into a particular part in industry, going into a particular field? It's not really all that clear to me in terms of understanding that. And once you sort of have that particular metric that you're thinking about, then you can make decisions based on that. So for example, if you want to go in the academic job sort of market and get a assistant professor position someplace, you're probably going to have to do, postdocs in different areas and develop relationships and things like that. And probably not make nearly as much money as if you went into private industry, for example. If you're trying to maximize profitability for yourself or maximize the amount of income that you're making, wages, you probably want to go into, unfortunately, probably go into industry in some way or another. But from me, I'm going to just sort of suggest and talk about my experience, what I went through, and sort of thinking about how to actually navigate and how I actually got a position like the one I have. So first of all, it was just thinking about, is my research sufficiently rigorous? And I'm always doubting this, and I'm always sort of thinking, I don't know if I'm doing anything that's rigorous enough. So I'm always trying to make it better. And rigor is kind of hard to define and sort of figure out exactly what that is. But once you see it, you know exactly what it is. But getting there is really difficult to get to that moment of exactly what that is, right? So basically what you're trying to do is strive to become better. And what that does, and if you have something that's better than somebody else in some way, right, however that is, a methodology or a research question or something like that, then people would like to bring you on board because they know that they're going to learn something from you. And that actually even goes into the real job market, right, into industry where you can actually get a job there because they're bringing you on as an expert at that case because you're a PhD, right? So they want to actually learn some knowledge from you. So if you're a PhD in a business school or you have a business degree PhD, you're probably going to go to a consulting firm where you're going to be the expert for the consulting firm, however that is, right? So you're going to be in their sort of research unit where you're providing sort of trajectories, you're sort of forecasting the future in that area. The other thing to just think about is, and this is the second thing, is thinking about, is your research what is called optimally distinct? And this is a sociology concept. I think this was, goodness, I think it was Huggy Rao at Stanford, and I might be blanking on exactly who came up with this idea. Probably should look it up. But what it is thinking about you should be distinct enough so you should try to reflect exactly what the market is saying currently and trying to sort of replicate what they're doing. So you should be close enough to what the market is currently saying and talking about that you kind of fit in with everybody else, right? But then you also want to be different enough that you kind of show that you're sort of carving your own voice and carving yourself, that such that people recognize you as a separate entity from anything else. And that's why it's really important to sort of show that you're different than your advisor, for example, your supervisor. You're providing sort of original research, right? So you have to be sort of matching what the audience wants and the academic audience actually wants, but then also thinking about, like, how can I be a little bit different than what everybody else is doing? And so you want to be this sort of optimally distinct, kind of in the middle. It's kind of hard to figure out where you should be, because if you're really, really different and you're providing really kind of oddball stuff, you're going to be considered an oddball, right? And you're going to be sort of preaching to one person, which is you. So you have to be sort of preaching to enough of people and sort of rigorous enough people that they're going to be paying attention to you when your research comes out. The third thing that you should be thinking about is, where is your research going to be viewed in 10 years from now? Is it going to be viewed as sort of central to the locus of what everybody else is doing? Is it going to be sort of a central part of what other people are suggesting and reading from you? And I think that's a strong signal if you can get that. And the way that you can actually maybe get that is talking to people that are sort of advanced in the field and moving the field, and see if you can carry on a conversation with them. If you can, then it's probably a suggestion in 10 years that your work is going to be really sort of part of sort of a bigger, broader area of research, rather than one that is dying, right? Because the academia is really full of these sort of fads and fashions that happens every single year, that there's something new that's happening, right? So currently right now, Bitcoin is becoming kind of a fashionable thing to research, and in 10 years from now, it's probably not going to be all that sort of fashionable in any sort of way in terms of doing research, because there's going to be a new technology that's going to come up. Same with methodologies. Sometimes some methodologies become sort of really important, like qualitative research became important about 10 years ago in my field. And now it's sort of part of just being a researcher, right? It's not all that distinct to what other people are doing. So it kind of goes in ebbs and flows, and you have to be sort of cognizant of that. You just want to be providing a voice to the literature and to other people, so in 10 years they can pick up on that particular thing, right? Whatever it is. And then the fourth thing that I think is important to think about is how is your, who is your audience? Thinking about who is your particular audience, that's going to really help you sort of identify how you can be competitive. You can pick out, say, 10 different people that you will that will vouch for you in any sort of way, or that they would be interested in hiring you and in things like that. That's going to make you really competitive. So you have to figure out who your audience is. Is it sort of local? If it's local, meaning, like, is it just people at your university that's paying attention to you, or is it sort of the global audience, the world, right? In academia, it really is the world. If they're paying attention to you, there's going to be sort of different effects from that, and it's going to be really distinct. And you're sort of trading off different things, right? And you have to really be cognizant of that. Local is probably going to be, are you a really good teacher, for example? You're going to be very interested in that if you're an instructor. Versus the global market is going to be really interested in how many publications you have. What are you saying in those publications? Are they worthwhile to read? Those critical things are really quite important. And if you can have people that sort of recognize who you are, then that's going to be really important in terms of getting a job in the job market. And that's tricky early on in the stage. But if you sort of continue on it, you can keep growing and developing in that particular way. So these are kind of questions that I would actually ask or think about for people that are not just in academia, but they're going into creating something that's new and novel. They're sort of thinking about these particular ideas, right? So, are you doing something that's worthwhile? For example, is that, your research rigorous enough? Is it sort of close enough to the market such that people can understand what you're talking about, but different enough that nobody else is doing it? Is it going to be situated in a way that in 10 years from now it's going to be important versus kind of a dying thing? Or, who are you talking to? What is your audience that you're talking to? And understanding who those are. And it's going to evolve over time, and that's really kind of normal. That's going to make you more, quote unquote, competitive in the academic job market. And it's going to help in the industrial job market too, if you can kind of define it in that way. So I kind of think about it in two ways, that you are sort of optimizing to the managers or optimizing to people in the industry that understand something that's interesting. Maybe you're in chemistry, for example, and batteries are kind of a big thing. Well, if you can talk about specific technologies that are hot in batteries to managers that are clearly not going to be at the same level as you are in terms of understanding, because you are in the expert, then that's going to get you a long ways. Or if you go into academia and you can sort of talk very specifically about the things that you're doing and aid to what other people are doing, that's going to really help out as well. So you're trying to sort of overlap those two things, make yourself a little bit more competitive in the job market. So if you like this video, make sure you do it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for the recommendation, by the way. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.